Trey Lance has been demoted
As
to QB3.
predicted.
As predicted, as expected.
No.
Trey Lance is now QB3, and the Niners are exploring all options.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Trey Lance. Like, he's currently on pace to go down as a colossal draft bust, and it's not really his fault. Like, we knew at draft time that he was a staggeringly inexperienced quarterback, like historically inexperienced. And we're in a world now where every time you and I go to practice, go to a team's training camp or a team's practice, one of the things that jumps out is just how few reps there are to go around, period, let alone for a backup or a number 3. So you're sort of left wondering, how does this guy get better? And the only way for him to get better is to play. And this is the situation that the Colts are dealing with Anthony Richardson. He needs to be on the field. You can't sit him for a year because he needs to see defenses. He needs to see rotating coverages. He needs to see the way NFL teams can disguise things. He needs to see that because he hasn't yet, because he's so inexperienced. Richardson's going to get that shot. He was drafted high. There's no real threat to his gig. Lance got hurt. He was supposed to get that shot last year, and then he got hurt, and he got Wally pipped by Brock Purdy. And now he's trapped in a world where there's no pathway to that playing time because the 49ers can't give it to him because he doesn't look good. And no one else is going to give it to him because he doesn't look good. So he's trapped in this hideous catch-22 where the only way he's going to get better is by playing, but he looks so bad right now that nobody can play him.
Should have stayed in school, huh?
I mean, you can definitely make that argument. He was in the same recruiting class as DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
I know, you go viral with all your
And
tweets.
what's his name? Tanner Mordecai?
Tanner Mordecai, yeah.
Who's still in college.
Wisconsin legend.
Yeah.
Just transferred to Wisconsin.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, is there any team that makes sense here? I know Vikings fans have been talking a lot about Trey Lance this offseason. Does he go to a team like the Ravens where he backs up Lamar Jackson? Does he go to a team like the Eagles where he could back up Jalen Hurts?
The problem is, I don't know how many teams even want him as the backup at the moment. Like, how many teams can you think of where Trey Lance would be the primary backup right now?
Yeah, and look, this is a tricky one too. I think I mentioned it on the ride back. We always talk about Kyle Shanahan as this cheat code and everything, and that's for a lot of quarterbacks. I don't think it means that if Kyle Shanahan couldn't get the most out of Trey Lance, that he's doomed elsewhere. I think there was, pass game wise, there was probably not a fit there. And every time I mentioned Kyle Shanahan and Trey Lance, I thought, okay, the key here is going to be the run game. And I don't think we ever really got to see that in full effect. Or even Kyle Shanahan want to fully dedicate to that around, Trey Lance is going to run the ball 12 to 15 times a game, and then the pass game will become easier. Lance just wasn't good in Shanahan's system.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he can't be good in other systems, but you're right. To answer your question, I don't know anywhere around the league where people are raising their hand like, I need Trey Lance as my backup right now.
Also doesn't mean that he wouldn't have gotten better in Shanahan's offense, had he made it through all last season and gone through a year. Like, if he played all of last season.
You're right.
If he played all of last season without getting hurt, he would have doubled his career dropbacks. Essentially, more or less, whatever. Like, he would have literally doubled his experience with a full starting season last season for San Francisco. So, that's the kind of difference in experience. But you start listing teams where it would sort of make some sense for him to go, like Minnesota. Would they want him as their primary backup over Nick Mullins? Maybe. The Giants I've seen kicked around because Daniel Jones, we don't quite know what he is yet. Like, Tyrod Taylor is their backup. Tyrod Taylor is a better quarterback right now than Trey Lance. Atlanta, Taylor Heineke is a better backup quarterback right now. Washington, in case Sam Howell stinks.
Jacoby Brissett
is a better backup quarterback. Justin Fields in Chicago. PJ Walker is probably a better. All of these guys, you're saying, well, not only do you need a team where the starter either might be on shaky ground or could get hurt, you also need one of those teams where the backup stinks. New England, maybe. Bailey Zappi. Okay, Bailey Zappi's a better backup than him right now, I think. But if Mac Jones gets hurt or pulled, I can see a world where Bailey Zappi plays himself to the bench after 4 games. That's the kind of scenario Trey Lance needs to get any kind of playing time.
Well, I think Trey Lance was always drafted with he's got a good arm, big-time throw ability, and he can run. Was a project from an accuracy standpoint. His accuracy was well below the standard of every other quarterback in that draft class. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. Accuracy was always a tick below those guys, and he just never hasn't developed yet, and he hasn't really had the opportunity. So I think it's an intriguing buy low for some of those teams that you mentioned just to see.